Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Exhuming the X-Files here on the Outpost Unknown YouTube channel. The show where we do what, Jeremy?
We watch X-Files episodes and then we talk about them a lot.
Yeah, because that's what everyone on the internet does. My name is Matthew. He is Jeremy, and tonight we are talking episode 3 of season 4. Was it Teliko? I'm not exactly sure how it's
Teliko, I
pronounced. Yeah.
believe.
Directed by James Charleston, written by Howard Gordon. I had actual memories of images of this episode from when I was a kid. When I rewatched it a couple days ago, I didn't really remember the storyline, but I remember like the kind of the melanin sort of pigment sucked out of these people's faces and like the white face. Did you have any remembrances of this one?
Not a thing. I didn't remember anything from this episode.
Okay. Well, I want to throw a little bit inside baseball out there to everybody. You and I are going on an epic journey tonight because we are actually recording 8 episodes of this show back to back to back. So, 7 weeks down the line, if you're listening to this and we sound exhausted and we sound like we hate each other and we don't want to be doing the show, it's because we've been up for like 7 hours straight recording
Right.
this today. So,
And,
so
and we are exhausted and we do hate each other.
so we'll see how it goes. Just follow along each week, hit that like and subscribe so you can hear the downward spiral of our relationship one Friday at a time. So with that being said, let's get into the prologue here. What happens at the opening of Teliko?
We see an airliner full of passengers clearly from Africa because they're dressed like Africans in the movie Coming to America with Eddie Murphy. They're playing African music. Like, I don't know what it was about television back then. We don't need to do it anymore. Like play like tribal music over the
Yeah,
top of something going. It's just so racist.
yeah,
It
yeah,
feels like.
yeah. I was gonna say like vaguely racist. Nah, it's pretty racist.
But
Tribal drums over anybody who's from
yeah,
Africa.
those
Yikes.
those those head those squared off head things and robes. Some of them are wearing with colors, but then there's some businessmen here and there,
Yeah.
and it actually focuses in on one of them who clearly needs to take a shit. He's like sweating and stuff, so he gets up to go do just that. And as he's making his way towards the 3 different bathrooms at the back of the plane, which I've never seen that before, but maybe I've just never gone to the back of a plane to take a shit. Are there
I have
normally three
never shit.
bathrooms?
I've never shit on an airplane
You've
in my
never
life.
pissed? Well, okay.
Shitter. I've never been in an airplane restroom ever. I have this phobia of public restrooms. I will not go into them, and I certainly am not going to get on a public restroom 40,000 feet up in the air. Not happening. I will shit myself before I do it.
I don't do it in domestic flights, but I traveled a lot between Germany and the US, and that's 12 hours from O'Hare to landing in Frankfurt. Like, if you gotta go, you're either gonna go in your seat at some point or you're gonna brave that sketchy ass bathroom.
Yeah, I'll take my
Which,
chances with the seat. What are they going to do? It's
like,
like they're going to throw me off the plane mid-flight.
wait, you know what? I would hope somebody would pop that emergency door and chuck your seat shitting ass straight out into the breeze. How dare you do that on an overseas flight, stinky? So anyway, getting back to the toilets, the businessman starts making his way towards the back, and as he's going towards the back, he's being spied upon from within the bathroom by this white-skinned, red-eyed tombs. Is what I wrote here. It's like
Yeah.
they're just doing tombs over again,
Yep.
and he goes into the bathroom instead of going into the bathroom to actually use it. He starts splashing water from the airplane sink on his face, and that's when I kind of checked out. I'm like, that's pretty fucking gross. Like the bathroom's bad enough, but who knows what? Like, somebody's washing their underwear in that sink, or like, there's nasty things that go on in that bathroom. So that dude splashing his face is just giving himself some sort of disease. But then he looks up at the ceiling and starts screaming. And that's another thing I don't get either is if you start hooting and hollering in those bathrooms, like everybody on the fucking plane can hear you. And that guy was screaming at
Oh,
the
for
top
sure.
of his lungs, just fucking bloody murder, but nobody notices it. The plane finally lands at JFK Airport, and the stewardess asks where the dude from his seat went. So the guy with apparently Tombs, but no longer with red eyes or white skin, steps out of the bathroom dressed in something completely different. And then the stewardess finds the businessman back in the bathroom. She starts screaming because he's got bleach white skin, red eyes, and then we get the title
What'd you think of this opening?
screen. I'm like, somebody went in the writers' room, and there were. We've had problems already in this season, and I'm thinking. I spent a lot of this episode thinking, man, is it just because some Fox executive came to Chris Carter and said in season 3, you guys need to step it up because something is wrong? And so they just threw out like every great idea they had in season 3, like everything they had in the magic bag for awesome shows. And then they just started writing stuff. They were just like completely lost, and so far it seems in season 4. And some writer came into the writing room. It's like, you know what? You guys remember Tombs? You remember both of those episodes? They were awesome. Let's do Tombs, but he's black.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought and we get this later on. We'll talk about it where he's squeezing into impossibly small
Small.
areas. So, and I'm like, this is literally Tombs, and this isn't the first episode we will watch in this sort of next 8 episodes where I'm like, they're just redoing what they already did in previous seasons inferiorly. Yeah, and so I was like, not super into this because I was like, man, this is just going to be a Tombs ripoff. It's not going to be as good. And
Not even
so,
close.
yeah, so, but we get Scully in a white suit in the next scene, which I made a note of.
She shows up to work at 5:17 a.m. to meet with some director from the CDC and Skinner about missing Philadelphia persons. They but they found one of them, and they believe that there's some sort of contagion, maybe some sort of CDC based thing, and they need a scientific eye on things. So they tap Scully to go to Philly and do an investigation of these black men that are missing, because at this point I believe there are 4 of them that are gone. They've only found one of them, and it was with the red eyes, the white skin.
Yeah.
Um, they they send Scully to do an autopsy with the X Files music playing, but with this African pan flute mixed in that I absolutely hated. And then Mulder just kicks open the door. He's like, "Hey, I heard you were down here slicing and dicing."
Yeah. Who's the lucky stiff? I did I did make a note with that close up with the guy on the table. You could see his neck pulsating, like very obviously on my 60-inch television. I was like, dude, try to like hold your breath or something. Scully didn't notice it though. He's not dead, Scully.
He's still alive. Um, Mulder immediately starts bullying Scully about what she's investigating, and Mulder says that the investigation is a PR stunt to cover up that black men are dying. Like he's just immediately writes off the contagion piece of it, even though there's scientific evidence, and the only evidence that is available is what she's dredging up or what the CDC
Yeah.
has found so far. And it's one like that tells me early on we're in one of those episodes where Mulder is going to just float in what I call this cloud of bullshit he surrounds himself with. And he's just like grasping at straws and writing off everything, every bit of evidence everybody actually has to bring to the table just to be contrarian. And I fucking hate it
Yeah,
sometimes so much.
what I think is interesting is, watching all of these back to back to back to back. It's really striking how inconsistent Mulder's character is, especially over the next 7 weeks. Like when he walks in, he's eating sunflower seeds, and he makes a joke. This guy is dead. He makes a joke like, "Well, there's a Michael Jackson joke in here, but I just can't quite find it." And then in later episodes we're going to talk about, he's super serious about people dying and whatnot. I was like, I did not get that when I was a kid, how sort of flippant Mulder's character is written in one episode about death in general, and then in other episodes it's like super, like the gravity just weighs down on him. And I think it's interesting rewatching all of these things to be like, yeah, the consistency wasn't always there with the character as maybe we thought it was.
You know what? I'm just gonna call it. I'm gonna attribute that seriousness to just post nut clarity. You can tell when he's
Yeah.
just been like watching porn and getting laid, and when he just shows up to work afterwards, like feeling the guilt from all that stuff. Super serious. But when he's not, like when he's not just cranking hog constantly, he's just fast and loose, flirty, stupid, like he is in this
Yeah.
episode.
Was it in this scene here where they're talking? Because I have a note here where Mulder says something about, well, with these missing sort of black guys, and Scully, I wrote down, she says, well, maybe no one can recognize the black guys because they lost their pigment, and I'm like, really, Scully? Like, really? Is that, would you not be able to tell? It struck me as strange, that line of dialogue, that Scully would be like, well, if a black person has no pigment at all or no melanin at all, clearly people would just assume they're a white person. Seemed problematic writing right there to me.
Yeah, because I mean, they didn't bring in any like straight haired fellas. Like everybody that got it in this episode definitely was a very black fella,
Yeah.
just covered in white clown face. I don't know what they did to the hair, but it was just like frosted tit. Ugh. It didn't look very good.
No,
But
it didn't.
so immigration officer shows up, the only actor or the one of two actors they actually picked up for this film that I've seen, or this episode that I've seen in other stuff. And he goes to visit the dude on the plane, the red-eyed guy that apparently killed the businessman on the plane,
Like a
to
boa
talk
or something? Is that his name?
Aboa, yeah.
Yeah.
Asks him to open a window to let in the sun, because it's not bright. He's like trying to get him to, acclimate, maybe not like shut himself in. And instead, he turns on like this dim ass light, a yellow bulb in the center of the room. Asks him if he has a fever, and the whole time, African Tombs is just standing there. And it's the only acting that he does that really works for me in this episode. When he's just standing there with that smile on his face, not saying anything, and ratcheting up the creepy vibe that he has from it, he's
Yeah.
doing it very well.
I think I read that he was like an Olympic sprinter or something, and that's how they cast him. Like one of the things at the show, they wanted to cast actual Africans, and one of them just happened to be like an athletic star, and somehow he got the role. He doesn't do a terrible job.
No, I don't think he does an awful job. I mean, he's no Tombs.
Oh, right?
Come
Yeah.
on now. But okay, so he's ratcheting up the creepy vibe. What's it? Mulder finds some seed, a single seed of an African plant on the guy that Scully was autopsying, and goes talks to some other seed geek named Agent Pendrell, who apparently has a crush on Scully
Yeah, that's the
because
guy from last season. Remember?
I vaguely remember that, yeah, because
Yeah.
Mulder is just like, yeah, she's got a date, and he visibly like deflates a little
Yeah,
bit.
he's like, "Oh man, I was hoping Scully'd be here." Like everybody wants Scully in this show. The lone gunman want her, Pendrell wants her, Mulder wants her. I mean, Scully is like that. She's like a bug zapper, and all these are just bugs coming towards her.
If there is one thing I did notice about this 8 episode death march that you and I just went on, is Scully does look fantastic this
Of
season.
course,
She looks hot. Her hair looks better than they did in the first few seasons. Like,
they
I mean,
got
she was
that.
always a smoke show, but she's real good looking.
Well, they got those high budgets and that Hollywood style cinematography and whatnot.
You mean dumping a bunch of sweat on people? And anyway,
We're gonna get to
we'll
the
get to
sweat
that
in the next episode.
we sure are. So, Scully calls Mulder as he's talking to Agent Pendrell, and she is covered in blood. Like, it looks like she's been hit with imperial spray. Like, what were you doing in this corpse?
That's so hilarious. My literal note is Scully is covered in blood. WTF? What was she doing in that autopsy room? I mean, it just looks like she's been sprayed. Yeah,
Just having a good time, I guess. But
crazy.
tells him that there's something about it. There's a necrotized pituitary gland.
Yeah.
And then Mulder makes a seed joke. and I can't remember what the seed joke was 8 episodes ago, but it was worth putting a note down. Mulder goes out and tracks down the random blonde just to ask what you know about black men dying in Philadelphia. And this scene was just to get us to remember that he has a contact in the
Yes.
that's a blonde gal. That's it. There was no reason to bring her into this
This
episode.
person sucks. Like, I have no interest in Marita Kovar-Rubius at all. That actress has no chemistry with David Duchovny at all.
At all, no. But wasn't she in Lost though?
I think so. I mean, she looks
Her name was
very familiar.
I think that her name was Penny, and they were trying to get the people off the island, and she was like involved heavily in the last part of that show that I watched that was worth watching. So I do remember her being good in this. She's a piece of wood in X-Files, but
Yeah.
whatever. She's eye candy, I guess is what they brought her on for. We flip over to the girl doesn't have anything really to say, and so there's just this random young black man at a bus stop. He's hanging out for a little bit, and then just suddenly gets a dart in his neck
Yep.
and passes
Tribal
out, or
music.
starts. Yeah, right. Starts passing out. This white bus driver pulls up, opens the door, and just like, "You gonna get on the bus, you little drunk piece of shit? I ain't got all day. I got a route." And just leaves him like just tweaking on the bed. And to be fair, he did. It was dark, and he did look like he was tweaking a little bit. But
Yeah.
then the bus pulls away, and our Aboa is across the street.
It's a cool shot. Like, how they shoot all of that looks cool.
There's a silver lining to everything, really.
My note here was guy gets seated at the bus stop.
But he goes missing, ends up getting reported by his mom that is missing. So Agent Scully is talking to the bus driver the next day. Bus driver gives him everything that he saw, thought he was passed out or on drugs, and tells him, "Oh, and by the way, I had a schedule to keep." He just wanted, it was more about saying that
Yeah.
than reporting what had actually happened. Missing persons cops go door to door apparently in the neighborhood looking for this kid, and ends up knocking on Aboa's door, and the young man is inside. He's paralyzed, and he looks like almost like he has, is it called vitiglio, like Michael Jackson had, where you start turning white in
Oh.
patches?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the name of it is, but I know what you're talking about.
Well, he was eating him slowly is what it was implying, while he just sat in front of the TV unable to speak and just kind of watching all of this horrible shit.
I wonder if Jordan Peele watched this episode and was inspired. I don't know. Did you ever watch Get Out?
I've not seen it yet, but I've
Oh,
heard great
you
things.
should watch it because there's shots in this episode that are very similar to shots in Get Out. Like the guy sitting basically paralyzed, but he's crying with his eyes wide and stuff like that. I got Get Out vibes from watching this episode. And that's it. Boa pulls that weird thing from his throat. That's cool.
But yeah, he's so, and I'm like, okay, so
Start
African
gun.
Tomb shtick is just he just stares silently at people and looks creepy, and can pull blow dart guns out of his neck, like long ass ones too. The FBI goes back to visit the immigration officer that we saw earlier in the episode. Tells him, and he's like, "Why are you trying to bust these guys? I'm not going to help you bust a bunch of immigrants." And they're like, "No, there's a potential health crisis." And I think he helps because he makes a fever comment to a boa earlier, and it's like, okay, well, I have to help there. Then immediately afterwards, like Scully, Mulder takes another shot at Scully. Says if you looked up from the microscope, you could find a motive. Like he has zero faith in her investigative skill as a scientist.
Yeah.
And it really is fucking bugging me because she has evidence. She's like looking at the bodies. She's like, all of the stuff she's saying makes sense. And he's just like, nope, that's not how it is. So they stake out just the one construction truck that's picking up immigrant labor in all of Philadelphia. And they just happen to run into Mr. Oboa, and he runs to the sound of African drums. They chase him into a dead end alley, and they're like, well, he's still got to be here. And they start flipping stuff over. They're kicking through trash cans, and finally they find him. And he's in this tiny little hole that
Yeah.
human beings shouldn't be able to, like, you couldn't normally crawl into.
Yeah. He's hanging out with tombs.
Yeah. Yep. Eating pituitary glands instead of livers. They just share bodies, really. Oboa is in a weird health state. Immigration guy shows up after the arrest and just starts yelling. It's like, you weren't supposed to arrest him. And he's like, that he ran. I had to. And then Mulder stutters a line in this scene.
Yes.
Super badly. And like, why didn't you reshoot that? Because it makes him look stupid.
There's another episode we watched in this where he does the same thing. And I was wondering, I was like, was that intentional? Was like David Duchovny trying to make it like more realistic that, Mulder's not speaking perfectly the entire time and he's kind of got a little stutter? It's not the first time or the last time that we see him do this. The end.
They had to have time. Just like, hey, David, would you give me that line just one more time, please?
You would think.
Not in season 4, not David Duchovny. So Mulder ends up finding an ambassador from the as yet unnamed African country, and said the right guy, the only ambassador in the country from this other country, knows why the albino body that was found in the plane was sent back. And he's like, you wouldn't believe it.
Try me.
You'd be surprised. And he tells the story of the Teliko, the spirits of the air. They hide in small holes. And while he's telling him this, Oboa is at the hospital, like hiding in the food cart in a drawer. We find out that Oboa has no pituitary gland. Mulder notices that Oboa is gone. Oboa tracks down the immigration officer. He's like, hey, yo, come on, I'll give you a ride home. Mulder complains while he notices what the getaway vehicle, the food cart for Oboa was. He's like, oh, he never touched his jello. Oboa takes the immigration officer to an alley that is immediately found by a cop while he's sticking a thing up his nose for that delicious pituitary gland meat.
Yeah. Suck it.
Mulder ends up blaming a tribe of African albinos. And then says, when asked why would they come here, he's like, free cable. Racist. Shit. So Mulder and Scully pulls up to a random asbestos demolition site in Philly and breaks in because surely Black Tombs is in it. Like, there's no reason they're there.
No. Okay, I actually wrote that there is a reason, but I found the reason incredibly ridiculous. So Pendrell, if you remember back when Mulder was interacting with him, he said he found asbestos fibers on the seed. Mulder's literally driving by a random building in downtown Philadelphia that's being demolished and sees a sign that just says asbestos, whatever you call when they start doing that. And he's like, gotta be in there. Let's go check it out. And then that's what causes him to get out and then both of them to go in there and check it out. There could have been any of 100 buildings in Philadelphia with asbestos, but no, they drove by the perfect building at the right time. Serendipitous, one might say.
But they do it a lot.
Yes.
Voodoo and such, guiding them near
Voodoo!
So they go inside, and Mulder gets a dart in his neck. And I read in here, it's like, all of these guys end up getting taken out by a dart in the neck. Why did nobody notice? Like, we're focusing on the pituitary gland. We're focusing on the albino whiteness of the skin. Why didn't anybody notice that any of the victims had a hole in their neck and were drugged up with some sort of paralyzing thing?
Because reasons.
Right? But anyway, Mulder gets kidnapped somewhere in this place. Then Scully goes in after him. She's crawling through a bunch of ventilation shafts. I
I
write
have
that we have this decent down blouse shot of Scully
what
crossing,
yeah, that.
crawling around.
This is my note: cleavage cam, because
Yeah,
it's just her. You could just see her cleavage bouncing around as she's crawling through this, and she just keeps crawling through vents and more vents and more vents. And I'm like, wow, the guy who directed this was really going for it there. So
and I'm completely fine with it because she's got some real nice things going on there. But anyway, she eventually finds Mulder. She takes a couple of shots at who is now albino Toombs because he hasn't fed apparently lately. Um, she drags Mulder out somehow, though he outweighs her by about 50 pounds.
yeah,
And as she's calling the cops, like the Teliko ends up jumping out of one of the vents and she blasts him a couple of times.
yeah.
But like,
Mulder's
where
like,
was he jumping?
I think he was trying to jump onto her back, probably to like, you know, snap her neck or something. And Mulder's like moving. All he can do is move his eyes left and right, and then that's what gets Scully to be like, oh, and turn around and boom, shoot him. Shoots. Well, does the Teliko die? He's like in the hospital, right? And they're like, he might not make it or something, but he gets out, right? I'm trying to remember
I don't.
what happens to the Teliko. I don't even
He just
remember.
no. He did
He's in the hospital.
no. The camera zooms out and they're all just like laying there, and then it cuts to the Scully Doogie Howser MD like ending where she's typing in her computer about whether he was an evolution of man and stuff like that.
Well, I remember that part, but I didn't know if they cut, like when she's doing her sort of end monologue, if they cut back to the Teliko, because I could have swore there was a shot where he's in the hospital. And hold on, I'm gonna look this up real quick.
All
Now
right.
now I need to know.
Well,
Now I
while
need.
he's playing the end of the episode over again, um, my problem with it is the Teliko jumps out of the tube to jump on top of her and hurt her, get her, whatever.
Yeah.
Putting a couple of bullets in him isn't going to stop the falling body trajectory of the Teliko. He would have just he might have died while falling, but he would have landed on top of her. And instead he gets over somewhere else next to some other dead body that's also in the room.
Okay. So, in her field journal, Scully writes that Oboe is struggling to survive while awaiting trial. So he is in, because she mentions that it doesn't look like he's going to make it to trial. So yeah, we do get that shot of him just in the hospital. So we could potentially have a Tombs Oboa, you know, team up episode down the line. Who knows?
Man, I hope so. Jeez. Not.
Uh, okay. All right. Well, that's Teliko. We have been disappointed with the first two episodes of season 4. This is season 3. How are you feeling coming out of this one?
Not good, Matt. Not good. Um, I was bored. I had once I realized that somebody just said Black Tombs and then waved his hands around in the writers' room to complete silence, and then Chris Carter's like, "All right, I guess." I
Yeah.
just checked out.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed with this episode. As it went on and on and on, I was like, there's nothing here. Like, there's a couple cool shots. Like, you can tell this season they've really upped their game cinematography wise, and you get cool tracking shots, and we'll see. In the next episode, there's a really cool kind of crane shot over the top as a guy is getting Scully, or maybe it's a couple episodes down the line. But other than like just kind of the visuals of this, man, I do not like Mulder this season. I really don't. Like, he's just coming across as a dick in all the episodes thus far. And to me, this was like this early in the season. I don't need a rehash of 2 episodes that we've already seen that are far superior to this. Like, why not just make it a trilogy? Why not just bring Tombs back again and give me more Tombs? Yeah, I did not like this one. Not a
Well,
fan.
while I would have liked to have seen Toombs come back, he did get pretty thoroughly escalated in the second episode.
Yeah,
I don't know if he come back from
they can always find a way to bring Tombs back. Maybe he's got a
that.
twin brother. Who knows?
Twin
I just
brother.
want to see that
Hmm.
weirdo actor again interacting with Mulder and Scully. Okay, some fun facts about this. Writer and executive producer Howard Gordon was originally working on an episode about someone who appeared to be immortal, but after discussions with consulting producer Ken Horton, he added in the notion of xenophobia and, quote, melanin sucking albino vampires, unquote. Series creator Chris Carter approved the storyline, but the first draft of the script was met with disapproval by the writing staff, and the story was restructured and rewritten. As the episode entered pre production, Carter asked Gordon to refine the script to give it a purpose, and it was then that Gordon came up with the theme of deceive, inveigle, and obfuscate. This phrase is first spoken by Scully in conversation with Mulder after the post mortem on Owen Sanders, the fourth missing man. Mulder later throws the same phrase back at her in frustration as he leaves the Mount Zion Medical Center, where Oboa has been examined, to meet Diabra, the Burkinabe diplomat. So we do have a name for the nation, Burkinabe. And Scully finally uses the phrase in her field journal during her closing sentiments. The phrase also replaces the usual "the truth is out there" tagline during the title sequence of the episode. Teliko explores the concept of the other, with characters of a different race representing the other. In the episode, the U.S. and its culture are treated as the norm, wherein the African culture in this episode is depicted in an intimidating way. African folk tales, which are not often considered strange in their own context, are presented in the episode as ominous and bizarre. The episode also prominently features African tribal music, and Howard Gordon claimed that linking the supernatural ethnic character to the tribal music added a more, quote, exotic feeling to the character. Eesh. However, Alan F. Moore, in his book Analyzing Popular Music, argues that the usage of the music in this episode reinforces a, quote, culturally dangerous slippage between the others, unquote. And Zoe Detsy Diamanti, in her book The Flesh Made Text Made Flesh, commented on the episode's depiction of race. She argues that the episode makes the point that a perfectly normal black man looks a certain way, pointing out that the episode states that a black man is defined by a, quote, certain skin pigment, unquote. Any exception to this norm is depicted in a negative manner, with science being the only answer to unnatural phenomena. And Dean Kowalski agreed with the analysis in The Philosophy of the X-Files, commenting that one of the main themes of the episode revolved around science's attempt to explain folk theories and paranormal phenomena. The episode's antagonist, Oboa, escapes the FBI by fitting into a dinner cart, a feat that was compared to slaves escaping in uncomfortable slave ships. And Teliko is Greek for end, as well as the name of a spirit of the air in African mythology, which is sometimes thought to be an albino. So there you go. The only other note I had that I didn't mention is at the end, Scully's little monologue. And they've been doing this since season 1. It's either Mulder or Scully doing this little end where sitting at a computer writing up their report. I really hate that. But she literally is like, science can explain this, even though she can't technically explain it. She still is like, science somehow could explain this, just kind of reinforcing that about her. And I'm just like, unnecessary. Thumbs down for me on Teliko. I don't know about this season, Jeremy. I don't know. How are you feeling about it?
After this episode, I'm like, as
Give
I
us
said,
7 more of them.
I had that whole feeling like, again, some executive or executive over at Fox came to Chris Carter after season 2 and said, this needs to get better. So they chucked out like basically every good writing room idea that they had, every script that they had, and they filmed it all for season 3. And
Yes.
then they just had what was okay. Now we just have to write new stuff for season 4. And this is what we're getting so far, and it's
Not great thus far, but maybe next week will be a little bit better. So hit that like and subscribe. We will be talking about episode 4 of season 4, which is Unruly. That's why some of these titles from the X-Files episodes just name them something that I can pronounce, please, please. But that one's actually written by Vince Gilligan, of course, creator of Breaking Bad. So, going into next week, I have some hopes. We shall see. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will see you next Friday.